Hey y'all, Ben here. I'm putting together a video. It's going to be a longer video on core, connections, posture, stability, those type of things, breathing a little bit. And it's not really going to be necessarily why or a lot of explanation. It's going to be, hey, here's the exercise, here's the movements, follow along with me and you're going to feel better. So I'll try to have some programming out there and and also as timestamps, I may timestamp things and send that in on my programming that I'm with you guys, and so you can kind of refer back to this video. All right, I love y'all. Bye. All right, I've got a couple little tests here. Might be a little bit humbling on the core strength piece. That's the first one. We're going to kind of go over what kind of core strength do we have, what kind of connections do we have, and then also how much flexibility do we have in the lower lumbar position and deflection, and how does the core strength apply to that? So first one here is kind of going to put our feet on the wall, find a 90-degree angle here with our legs, pushing into the wall. Can we keep our glute engaged? This is a pivotal, so keeping the core engaged as we're doing this. Take our hands to our ears, and we're pushing against the wall, glutes on, and can we come up into a crunch and hold? How long can we hold? Maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, come back down. It may be very hard to even like get a crunch here. That's okay. Ideally over time, we will be able to get a little bit farther up, a little bit more engagement, and then understanding what's happening here. So that's the first one, but maybe shoot for a few reps there. Shoot for a 10-second hold, see what that feels like. Okay, the second test here is a pelvic bridge up, also involving some of the lumbar, and what we're doing is to allow you to become aware of what flexibility do you have into flexion in your lower lumbar. We'll retest this later and we'll progress as we go. But this way, we're going to put our hands against the wall this time. And what we're going to do is just bridge up. Okay? And as we do that, I want you to find your rib cage around the front and where it connects back here in the spine. And we want to be able to kind of round down, pushing against the wall if you need to find that pressure point and a little bit of pressure on the ground. And what we're going to look for is becoming aware of where each vertebrae is. And it's about 4 to 6 inches here. And so what we're going to do is try to work inch at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me tuck my shirt in so I make sure that you can kind of see this a little bit better. The pelvic bridge up is we're going to, if we need to start from the top, that's fine. We'll start from the top, it's easier. But ideally, we want to be able to get to a spot where we're coming up from the bottom. So the bridge up position in the pelvic bridge up is here. The pelvis is weighted up off the ground. The lower lumbar that initially comes, that first vertebra that comes out of the pelvis is on the mat. And so what we're going to do is now go to the next one. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're wanting to become kind of smooth throughout this transition and just become aware of where each one is. At first, you might have a lot of tight muscles in the back, and so what it'll look like is kind of bridging up, and you might not even be able to really find how to create flexion in the lower back, and that's okay. But what we're going to do is just a test, retest. So start up at the top, and then push some pressure on the wall, and just start working to bridge down and bridge out and bridge up, maybe 10 to 12 reps, working to make it more smoother as you go, accessing some of the core up in the top to come down. So 10 to 12 reps of that, and just kind of see where you're at. We'll retest later and you'll see how much you can progress in a short time. So it might be a little bit humbling though at first. So, well, that's okay. Hang with me and we'll get there. Okay, this one's going to be probably a longer video, kind of a walkthrough. And so on this one, we're becoming aware of 3 key points along our back, our spine, and hips. And so what we're going to do, we're going to start up kind of finding the ribs, lower ribs, and trace where they go around into the back here, right around the spine where they connect in. This is going to be the top of what I want you to imagine as a triangle. So this will be the top of the triangle. The lower end of the triangle will come down and be the hips, the hip bones, and the prominences as we can kind of feel pressure points along the mat while we're laying down. So here we go. Kind of get set in there equally, hips on either side. What you're going to notice is if you have a sway back, you may have more space here. And what we're going to do is and you can kind of notice the ribs kind of flaring here. This exercise is to bring the rib cage down to the hips through breathing. And so as we breathe out, kind of pushing the ribs down, belly button to spine, we're going to create some tension right here. And as we inhale, we're going to inhale from up top and then back down, keeping the ribs down. And as we inhale, we're going to fight to keep them from coming back up. So inhale, keeping them down. All right. So just kind of practice this. Take some time to work on this. And what you're going to find is that you can kind of breathe into the lower back or the mid back where that anchor point is. Feel the pressure of the tension that we built up through the core into the mat. And what we're working on is the transverse abdominis, which is kind of like a skirt. The lower core muscles, the endurance muscles, the long distance muscles. But it wraps around and then kind of comes back around to here. And so continue to work on that. And you'll find some key points in the front that we'll go over later. You'll find tension through here. We're working to kind of imprint our lower back along the mat. Okay? So, and what you might find is as you're doing this, your neck might come up. You might have some cramping here in the traps or neck. So what we're going to try to do is still maintain the ribs, but, kind of get the neck off a little bit. You may even kind of chin tuck just kind of a little bit. Elongate the cervical spine. Think of the crown of your neck, or the crown of your head pointing towards the wall. And you might even squeeze the shoulder blades together a little bit and get them set. We go back to breathing, rib cage down. And we can think of even points on the scapula if you want to. Loosening up here. Just becoming aware of that point back there. We want that to be a strong position to now go through other things. This is a kind of the monotonous part of it, maybe a little bit boring, but what we do next, what I have my folks do next, we're kind of going to do some snow angels, and the awareness is still on the back, but we're going to start with the thumbs up, come back around, breathing into the lower back, find that pressure on the ground, and coming overhead, and then back through. Around about the kind of 90-degree angle here, the T, we turn the thumbs up, and then turn the thumbs down as we go overhead. And you might find that it's difficult overhead depending on your mobility, and you might not be able to touch the mat with your thumbs. That's okay, you can come up here and then rotate through. Maybe 10 or 12 pass-throughs here with the snow angels, just becoming aware. I'll also have some, my folks go through some rotations a little bit. So we'll start low. And we're rotating from the shoulder. You imagine locking out the arms and the actual shoulder socket is moving, and you're still working with that position in the mid-back to breathe and keep. So maybe two or three rotations here. Come up a little bit. 2 or 3 rotations here. 2 or 3 rotations here. All right, this is an add-on that is pretty wonderful, but this is just a band. It's actually a broken band, but it works pretty well. So we're going to kind of lay it here. We're going to Put our hips over a little bit. Gonna work the same positionings that we're just going over. Ribs down, neck off, shoulder blades squeeze a little bit there. We're gonna take the band, we're gonna hand, fingers over, thumb under. Find some tension here. We're gonna kind of isolate the lats a little bit. All this still is in play. Again, we're trying not to arch here, but bring the ribs down, hook them into the hips, find equal pressure on the hip bones on either side, that reverse triangle that we were talking about along the back. Takes a second to just find pretty good tension here, the right amount of tension. And then we're working some rotations. Just continual 20 to 30 rotations here, something like that. You're working to imprint your back flat along the mat, and also shoulders, also neck. Remember, crown pointing kind of to the wall. This is wonderful for the shoulders, connecting to the core, as well as getting the lats involved. All right, so now we're going to be going over a little bit lower into the obliques. So we've went kind of over the top section here, finding tension in the lower ribs back here. So we're going to do the same thing. So really it's focused breathing to bring the rib cage down, lock them with the hip, find equal hip pressure, and that anchor point on the spine where the ribs meet. We're still finding that, breathing into the back, kind of getting set, neck set. Shoulders set a little bit. And now we're going to go down a little bit farther into the obliques. So sometimes it can be harder to find, but a lot of times it sounds stupid, but ha ha ha, there it is. Ha, right there. So I don't know, a laugh in this manner, you might find it right there. So that's the engagement right there. And what we're looking for is to continue to hold that engagement. And you can do this for 60 seconds to 2 minutes to find that. You can have that engagement maybe 2 to 5 to 10%, something like that, to find it. But then as we continue to work that, breathing down, ribs down, finding that strong point anchor on the back. Now we're just moving down into this side, and it's going to be kind of a shooting at a 45-degree angle, if you'll notice. The obliques, they kind of shoot out at a 45-degree angle. It is nowhere, it is not a press out at all. In fact, when we get into lifting weights or putting on the belt and we're bracing out that way, that is a straight route for a hernia or something. I mean, it's not the way. So this is the way. This is how God made it. It's right here. So bracing with the obliques and having that 365-degree brace. So as we do this, though, continue to just be breathing, and you can kind of create some more tension here. More tension. And you'll realize that without any engagement in the glutes or the quads or the hamstring, that the hips lighten off of the mat. And that's it. That's right there. So this can be, isometric holds are amazing. So 2 minutes of holding something like this are wonderful. Along with any kind of, the transverse abdominis. These are isometric, long endurance type muscles, and they're meant for every day. They're meant to be on to some degree at a low percentage as we're walking around doing everything. So that's going to apply when we get out of the gym and we're walking around. So, but on this one now we're working to kind of isolate up the obliques. And so once we get a good awareness of where they are, what we can do now is we can start to have a little bit, we can actually not have very much engagement with our glutes or hamstrings, and it helps to have socks on, or you can also get a towel and you could lay down on the mat so we can kind of slide our feet out. And you might find if your lower back starts to come up and you kind of that engagement comes off of the obliques, just don't bring your legs out as far. So refine it, press out, ha, right there, you got it. And we can kind of go in this manner. And then keep it as you come back up. This might be the harder part. Honestly, I don't really have much of glutes on at all. Pushing out has a little bit of hamstrings, maybe just minor. And then pulling back has a little bit of quad and hamstring. So maybe getting 3 to 6 of these. And then we can also, we can shift, we can kind of move in a back and forth as well. So just kind of follow me through this, sliding that heel along the mat. And of course we can still engage and come back up here, but it is really helpful to not have a whole lot of legs on muscles as we're doing this, because we're just really isolating this up. Okay, another add-on here, we could actually use a kettlebell to find it as well. So, rib cage down, belly button down, and you'll find kind of a flat position here of engagement where the kettlebell's there. You can kind of take your hands here and then your thumbs on the sides, indicating where it is. We can come out and we can see if we can get some holds up. Now, if the lower back starts to come off, we don't have a whole lot of strength there just yet. So we may come up one leg, up another leg. You can even press this kettlebell into you a little bit more. The neck back off, flatten that back, imprint it along the spine. So this is some oblique openers. A lot of times I'll have rep schemes of certain things where they use a kettlebell. Okay, here's another add-on for kind of finding and engaging the obliques. Well, we use a heavy band. Kind of step in here, right along the hips. There's the hip bone, just below the hip bone into the kind of the crease. Gonna come out to here, knees about shoulder width, feet about shoulder width, sitting down. I'm gonna try to get a hold of the glutes, squeeze the glutes, come up, rib cage down. Now, try to engage the obliques out at that 45-degree angle again. And we're kind of coming up, basically in kind of a hinging position. Keeping the rib cage down, keeping it kind of hooked to your hip bones. We're not moving in or out this manner, just really locked and braced. Maybe, get in about 12 of these. Notice that the back is pretty flat. Sometimes you might find that you can't get a hold of the glute. It kind of goes. If you need to crunch a little bit, that's all right for this drill. Keep the glutes on, opening the hips as much as possible, keeping the brace. We can also use a kettlebell. You'll find that this is a little bit of a glute exercise. Also keeping the hip open in the front. Sometimes we can use a belt actually to feel more tension there, just as an exercise. Obviously, we're not pressing out with the front. If I press out on the front, you'll notice what happens is I'm in this arched position, and I actually can't even open up my hips until I create that engagement with the obliques. So this is a no-no. And the glutes come off. So again, grab a hold of the glutes, find that tension coming up. And the belt does kind of help to feel out where you're actually engaging and pressing out. So that's an add-on. It's a good one. Okay, so now we're kind of going into lower engagements of the transverse abdominis. So we've got some tension up over the top where the ribs are, then we've got some oblique engagement. Now we're going down even lower. So as we're standing up, find the hip bones, go inside the hip bones, breathing all the way out. A little bit of oblique engagement, you'll find it. Just like that. So I'm gonna lay down here so maybe it's easier for y'all to kind of see. Okay, got my shirt tucked in. So, same thing applies, finding the ribs, breathing down. Slight engagement, this is just minor engagement. 2 to 5% with the ribs down, the obliques on. And we're going to find the hip bones, go inside, breathing all the way out, belly button to spine, and see if we can shoot lower. As you'll notice, we can do some disengagements and re-engagements. So disengage, relax, and out, disengage. And this is just kind of helpful to become aware and how to engage and re-engage them. So practice that a little bit. It's going to be on the inside. Again, not pressing out. Remember to really flatten the lower back along the mat, and even as you're doing that, you'll feel that the hips kind of rise without using your glutes. However, on this one, it is kind of helpful if you get a little bit of glute engagement and a little bit of kind of rotation in the glutes. You may be able to find it a little bit better. So engage the glutes just a little bit, disengage, engage. Okay, so there we have it right there. It's right there. It may take a little bit of time to find it, but what I also like to do is work for maybe 100% engagement, and then see if we can go down to 80. Still hold it on. Again, we're breathing up top, but we're maintaining a solid, stable muscle engagement here. Maybe down to 60. And then maybe down to 40. And then 20. And then 10. And then even down to even lower. And practicing just having it on just a hair. But that's going to take some practice. So let's go back, and we're going to do some knee outs basically and toe outs. But find it, 100% engagement. Keep that index point here. One knee stays still. The other knee kind of goes out into some knee outs. Kind of shoot for 6 or so knee outs. Really keeping it on. You might find that you might be shaky in one spot. Really try to smooth that out. And engagement from here, and then after 6 to 12 knee outs, then we're gonna go and do kind of a toe out position. Again, slide the heel along the mat, and then kind of bring it up. There's not a whole lot of work that we're doing with the legs or the glute. You obviously feel some engagement, but really try to isolate that up. Maybe 6 to 12 reps. And after that, we're going to kind of connect them together. So toe out, keep the engagement, and knee out. Work out the shakes. Just think some kind of long distance engagements here. 6 to 12 of putting them all together now. Okay? Now, you can ramp it up a little bit, and sometimes it actually can be kind of cheating a little bit, right? But it's also strengthening too, so I don't mind it at all. We go to the other side. Again, you can do it without the band on the other side, that's fine. Still finding the same engagement, but this is later on when you want to do a little bit more. So, all the same thing applies. Find that, 100%. Knee out. Knee outs, maybe 6 to 12. And this actually can help you to kind of feel an engagement. You're actually allowing the band to pull back, and then you're using the lower TA positioning to bring it back forward, just like that. And then we can hook them together, or you can do the toe outs again. And then put them all together, even with the band on. So keep the engagement. All the way out, and you'll notice that the other one is engaged as well as you're doing this. So you might find a little more engagement on this side than the other side, but you're really working that lower TA position. This is a pivotal of how we connect and how we stand. All right, so we've gone over the stability muscles, the long endurance kind of transverse abdominis, and how to gauge some of these connecting points. Kind of gone over higher, mid, and lower. basically all we're doing is lighten these up so you become aware of them so that you can naturally just start using them in daily life. Honestly, this is a necessary piece. This is a square one fundamental, and the engagement with our transverse abdominis needs to be on all the time. You know, unless we're sleeping maybe. But at first it's going to be hard trying to find all these positionings, so you might be engaging these more, but we'll get to a spot where you can have lower percentages of just engagement and just comfortability, where you've got all the movement, but you have the engagement of that. So just hang with me there, and we'll progress up more and more as we go. All right, what we're going to be going over is a neutral dead bug. And what I want you to become aware of, we'll re-go over the kind of the anchor points, the key points in the back that we're looking to become aware of. So find the rib cage, go around to the back of the spine right here, kind of mid spine. We're going to become aware of that. Also with the hips. So that's the bottom end of the triangle, the top is here. Now, we're going to become aware of that, but then we're going to have a kind of a flip triangle on the front. So lower end of the triangle will be the pubic bone, and then the upper end of the triangle will be kind of the rib cage. So it'll be a flip triangle. Okay, so let's go to the wall. Let's get about a little bit farther away from the wall, not 90 degrees. What we're going to do is first up become back aware, kind of neck off, shoulders off, maybe squeeze the shoulder blades together, bring the rib cage back down. Breathing into the back, find on the back that top point of the triangle, make that strong. We'll go down to the obliques, pressing the mid-lower lumbar into the mat. Kind of find key points where our hips are to kind of anchor off of here, and just kind of becoming aware of that. Obviously, lower TA can be on, mid, upper. Okay, so we're going into the dead bug position, which, let's bring the knees to us. We can move the knees in closer than 90 degrees at first, that's okay. Try to feel it out. And so just continue to think the important focus is to keep the spine imprinted along the mat. As we sit here, we're going to find some tension that is being built up. And again, kind of an upside down triangle. Pubic bone, right at the lower end of both ribs. So also another way to think of it, if this is a better cue for you, is find the lower end of the ribs, and then the top of the pelvic bone right here. Lock them down, just like that. Again, you can make it easier to bring the knees in, but as you're following along here, what we'll start to do is maybe set a 2-minute timer to be able to hold this. This is an isometric hold, long distance endurance muscles that we are building up in the transverse abdominis, the deep core muscles, for our daily activity, for life, for stability, okay? So what we can start doing as we get a little bit stronger and better at this, you can scale this up as much as you want, and I will show some scale versions up and down on this, but you can start kind of moving your knees back and forth. Okay, but however the focus is, you can actually even bring the heel down to the mat. However, if we start bringing the feet down and the lower back gives, then we don't need to go down that far, okay? Just go however far you're able to. You can even start moving the foot out, kind of tapping the wall. You can even bring in the arms. So at first think of 10, 15 engagement, equally, as best you can, throughout the whole lower abdominal and core muscles, okay? As we get better, obviously, we can scoot out from the wall. We can get a little bit more length. Obviously, we can add some weights to this. So this is a double plate neutral dead bug hold. As we get stronger, And this actually can really help to create, you know, this extra weight pressure down to create some pressure points. So like we can equally find the scapulas and kind of balance those, equally find the hips here. Of course, the closer we bring in the weights, the easier it becomes. The farther we go out, the more difficult. Okay, again, you know, if you're setting a timer of 2 to 3, 4 minutes and you need a 10-second break, well, get your 10-second break and come on in and reset. This by far is one of those amazing exercises for stability that's out there that I found for folks. Again, later on we'll be doing more, but this is something that needs to be mastered. Okay, what I'm going to go over now is what I call a perfect Superman, meaning kind of the arch holder Superman hold. However, on this one, we're not going to try to be overactive on our lower back. I'll show you what I mean. So it's not going to be kind of up in this position where we've got our you know, the rounding of our stomach and we're pressing out through the front. And you'll notice that there's the back is highly active and it's kind of like ropes. So that's not what I'm looking for. We're looking for still the same bracing, obliques and all that. So what I have this here is helpful. I just kind of points. And so what we're going to do is one towel is going to be over the top of the flip triangle in the front. And one is going to be over the pubic bone here, and kind of set this in place. Just as kind of some key reference points. Arms just as relaxed as you want to. It's going to be harder to be overhead, depending on your overhead mobility. But we're going to do the same thing now. Really set the pubic bone into the mat. Kind of feel that pressure. Lock the ribs on either side into the mat. Oblique. 45-degree bracing out. And then what we're going to do is from this point up, arch from here, like you're anchoring off the ground right here to pull the thoracic up. And then you're also anchoring from here to bring the legs up. And at first, if you're just lightening the weight up off the ground, you may not even get your feet up off the ground. That's okay. So this is some long distance kind of isometric holds here to become stable. And this is also working the back. The back is going to be active, but as you'll notice, the back muscles are more, they're just not so ropey. They're more supportive through here. So as we get a little bit better and stronger with this, lock down, come up. It's almost like you're just anchoring from here and coming up, anchoring from here and coming up. So we can kind of moving the arms up, down. As we're able, we get one leg up, one leg down. Then we can kind of bring both up. Again, intensity right here. We're not looking for crazy intensity, but we are looking for some longer endurance, you know, maybe 10, 15% engagement of everything, okay? So I will show, this may be hard to be on a flat ground, but I will show one off a bench if you have a bench. Okay, I'm going to show the perfect Superman from the bench, which is a little bit easier. However, it's roughly about the same. It actually can get you in a better position if you're struggling to maintain a perfect arch on the ground. So I still have these towels here just as indication points of where I want to be. And it is helpful for the stomach, so you can kind of feel how you can come off the ground. So same thing, lock in place, ribs, pubic bone, coming up. Again, so we're watching and we're keeping aware of overactivity in the back. You'll notice we're trying to keep these muscles smooth and elongated in this manner. This actually allows, if you have a reduced overhead shoulder mobility, now we can bring our hands up a little bit here. And if this is too difficult, you can obviously come here we're shooting for, you know, long distance engagement. And just sit in here and really try to equalize everything out. If you're feeling it only all in the back, well, let's lock back down. If you're rounded out more, that's fine. And then continue to kind of work for that thoracic lift a little bit from this anchor point and from this one, okay? We can obviously up it, you know, there's weights, little 2.5s we can use. We can move them out in all ranges. Okay, we got ankle weights you can throw on as you get stronger. This one I really love, so pay attention to this one. This is just a band. Kind of throw it in here, and we're going to engage the lats as well for a very strong position. Lat engagement. Again, think of the neck off, traps a little bit off, a little bit deactivated. Everything will kind of be activated up, but think of the crown of your head towards the wall in front. Just try to find equal activation of all. So this one's an amazing one. Very helpful to have a bench. So try that out. Okay, so now we're going over the perfect bridge, and this is the same thing. This is these constant longer distance holds, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then we're moving into single leg bridge ups and all kinds of stuff. Bridge ups against the wall, but I'll show this one first here. So we're sitting here. I mean, a little bit farther from that's fine. So because we might use the wall here in a little bit. So again, so this is some of that pelvic bridge up stuff. However, what we're working for is just to kind of create a neutral right now. So again, rib cage down, obliques on, lower TA on. And what we're doing is, if we need to, we can round up, that's fine. Round up and come into a perfect bridge where, again, it's about some activity of the lower back right now. So we're kind of working, we can work in a flex position at first to keep the lower back off. And as we're doing that, we're relying on the quads and the hip flexors to bring us up. And then start making sure the obliques are on. And to some degree, maybe even a low percentage of 10%. You know, relax the neck. Continue to come up. If at any point in time you feel like all of a sudden you're really activating up the back and that's starting to really cramp and everything, well, come back down. Reactivate the obliques. And just start shooting up here. What you'll notice is the core is starting to get more engaged. The back is a little bit more deactivated. It is still activated. The glutes are on. I'm trying to equalize the quads, the glutes, glute med here on the side, minimus. And we're really trying to get to hip flexors a little bit. Obviously, when we get a little bit better at it, we'll have more of a kind of a straight up, almost like a board here, where we've got, and when we get to this point, I mean, the glutes are going to start become more on, obliques on, and bracing, you know. But if you need to, if you feel like the back is becoming very active, then come back down and just stay here for a little bit. Okay, this is slow. You're kind of waiting for your body to warm up a little bit. You're waiting to be able to open up the hips. So the hips are down and locked. Remember the rib cage and the hip bones. Lock them in place there. Keep coming up as you're able to. When we get a little bit better at this, we can start moving into some single leg stuff. But again, hold where you're at right now. Work for 2 minutes, work for 3, 4, 5. And then after that, you get pretty good at that. We start putting in a single leg bridge up, and we're really focused on stability here. As far as the hip goes, we don't want the one hip shifted here, one hip up. You'll notice some, maybe if you're not quite got it yet, you might notice some twisting or shearing in the spine a little bit. So again, oblique, remember that, and then correct it out. As you're able to, we kind of keep moving up. All right, so we might spend 2 to 3 minutes in a single leg, and then being able to switch. We can even move into a more complex where we really brace the hips. Coming down. Back up. And you might notice you have a whole lot more strength on one side than the other. If that be the case, then maybe spend more time on the weaker side in a lower capacity. So there's a whole lot we can do here. I will show one that may be a little bit easier off of the bench. So there we have it. The perfect bridge is huge for really getting our quads and figuring out where our hip flexors are. That's going to be key. Okay, this is a perfect bridge from the bench. And basically what we can do is kind of throw our elbows on, find the bottom of the scapula, shoulder blades here, arch up. We can start from this position. Again, see if you can get a hold of the glutes. Get the obliques on, everything engaged. Low TA, mid, upper. And then just kind of work on a bridge up hold as we're able to. You can hold the neck and just keep working up as we're able to. This can help us get to the hip flexors a little bit more. Again, if the back starts to really activate, pull it down. And if you want to build up some strength here and maybe not such an open position, you can throw up some weight here. Maybe this right here is where you can keep the back a little bit less active, still active, but not overly active. And maybe this is the whole position that we're at right now. Just quite yet with the activity of the back. But here's another one that I really like is having some weight plates. You know, whether it be a 10 or 25 or 35. Maybe right here with the back activity. What I like here is you can kind of judge and see where we're at. So you got some space through the plate. As we get stronger and more flat, kind of like a board here as we're going. And kind of feel this out. And obviously we're looking for activation of pretty much everything. Glutes, quads, core, back. As equally as we're able to. Just take it slow, work up 2 minutes. 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, wherever you're at. All right, so now we're going to be going over some core focus, Birddog, also some hip circles, and some connection points from this position. So I've got a towel here, you can an ab mat or whatever you need. But the knee, you know, being able to have one knee up off the ground allows for freedom of movement for here. So as you'll notice, we're going to focus in on the core. So upper, mid, lower, engage. And at first, if you need to flex out a little bit and round out to make sure that you're engaged here, that is awesome. As we get a little bit more aware of the core positions, we can come back out to a more neutral and flat back as we're able to. Again, the hips, we want to make sure that they're even. What we're going to do here is we're going to work on some hip circles. So some forward hip circles, really bracing underneath. So that's why I'm kind of telling you I'm okay with it being flexed out a little bit at first, so that you're kind of aware of these positions. But as you get a little bit stronger, then backward circles, we can come out to a little bit more of a neutral position. And what we're looking for is to stay very braced here and not a whole lot of hip rotation. So not one way or the other, or not a whole lot of movement back and forth. So focus in here on the kind of some points in the back here that be real stable. So the knee out position would be here. If I go too far, I'll start shifting in the hips. So this is just some real isolated work here. So really keeping the hips from shifting, keeping lower TA and everything on. This will be your knee outs. Toe outs will be here. Obviously, if I come too far, I'm kind of going to overactivate that back. So focus in on the core. And as we get a little bit stronger, we'll be able to keep the hip and core engaged. And then keep it connected as we go into this knee out to toe out. Obviously we can up it by putting a band here. Now we're going kind of the opposing way. So, knee out, making it smooth, to toe out. Just like so. Again, the bird dog position, we can kind of take this away. So obviously get each side, but the bird dog position is here. So we're going to kind of go in this manner here and trying to connect our knee to our elbow. So really brace. If you're able to, come to neutral while still finding that engagement, sliding the arm out, toe out. Again, we're not activating the back overly, but equalizing everything. And it sure does make it a whole lot harder when you have a band. So it'd be kind of like 6 to 12 reps each side. There you go. Work balance, stability all the way through. So there is your bird dog. Obviously, you kind of working some hip circles and stability across the spine and the lower lumbar. Really focusing on the connections. Hook in. All right, this one is my favorite. It's called a tight bear crawl hold. So similar to the bird dog, we're gonna get in this position here. Knees about shoulder width apart, feet shoulder width apart. Finding the core connections and just coming up off the ground, a couple 2-3 inches with the knee. You might even see if you can get to 90 degrees here. At first, I'm okay if you're really flexed in the lower back in order to find these connections. Ideally, as we get a little bit stronger, we can kind of come out more into more of a neutral position. The scaps and shoulder blades, we can kind of find maybe a tucked position here. We're working on these kind of holds. You can add up a little bit more. I like this, a weight added to the back. Imagine kind of a glass of water that is on your back. And even at first here, if you don't even get your knees off the ground, that's okay. But you can kind of find that connections in the core to engage everything and be here for a little bit. As we get a little bit more strong, you can come up a little bit maybe off the ground. Right here, a couple 2-3 inches. And just work these holds. Obviously you'll find some chest, arms, this is a pretty good workout for it. As we even get even stronger and we really hone down with our connections, we can start moving. Into a walk, moving 2 to 3 inches at a time, all over the place. So this is one of my favorites by far, and it lights everything up, and it really shows me when I see folks can really connect, that they've really found those connections. So, all right, love y'all. Have fun.